Is practicing scales killing your guitar progress? To answer this question, you probably have to think first, what are scales? To me, scales are just a group of notes that sound good together. Now, think about it this way. When you listen to your favorite guitar player, what do they play? Maybe they play, some chords, or maybe they even play like some lead guitar. What do these two things have in common? The first thing is they're playing notes in there. And guess what? All those notes, they kind of sound good together. So really, one of them is called chords and the other is called scales. But at the end of the day, they're all just notes that sound good together, right? So then if you play that and if you practice scales, then does it mean that it's going to make you better at guitar? Maybe, but what else are these people doing, right? What else are the best players doing? Your favorite guitar players, what do they do? Do they just play the scale? No. So you see right here, if you practice scales, is it really hurting your playing? Probably not, because you're just learning more of how the fretboard works and where to play what good notes, right? So you're trying to figure out where the good notes are, and that helps you with this. But that's not enough, because the truth is, playing scales on top of a track is just not enough, right? It's not what's going to take your guitar playing from, okay to great. You have to do other things, and this is what the pros do. So what are those other things? Well, I break it down always in 3 steps: pitch, rhythm, and soul. Pitch, rhythm, and soul. You always have to know what nice pitches to land on, right? You have to make sure that the pitches you land on are the right pitches compared to what's in the background, right? Because when you play lead guitar, when you play solos, you're really just surfing. I like to call it surfing on top of a wave, right? So everything else in the band, like maybe the drums, the bass, the chords in the background, all of this is kind of like, the wave itself. And you as the lead guitar player, or as the singer, if you sing, you're basically the surfer. And you're trying to surf on top of this, wave of music. And you have to know which ones are the notes to land on. Because if you don't know which ones are the good notes to land on, then guess what? It's not going to sound that good. So really, that's the first thing. The second thing that you need to really understand is how to vary what it is that you're doing. Because if you land on the good pitches, that's good, right? But it's not going to be quite right yet. It's not going to be quite like the pros, because the pros, they do something else. They also really worry about when they play those right pitches. Right? They play the right pitches or the wrong pitches on purpose, right? And then they decide, this is when I want to play it. This, if I play it right now, this is going to have the biggest impact, and it's going to be so much better if I play it now, if I wait a little bit longer, or if I do it like a little bit early, right? Or if I just, do it super fast. Like, they decide when to play it. And that's the rhythm part of things, okay? And this is really important. You have to train to be able to do this. Then next, what you really want to focus on is the last piece of the puzzle. It's like actually probably the most important part of it. And that's just giving it that soul. And how do you give the soul? Because it's like, you'd think like, oh, well, I just can't give it the soul. I just don't have it in me, right? But it's not like that, right? It's something that you actually can learn. Like, most of it you can actually learn. And then you just have to give it the soul when, you mastered your craft and you're not thinking anymore. You're no longer thinking about it, what it is that you're doing. You're just doing it and putting raw emotion out there. This is when you're really mastering your craft and you're putting raw emotion out there. But there's ways to get there as well, right? You can almost like, not really fake emotion, but you can make it easier to get through, if that makes any sense, right? So for example, here, instead of just playing a note like this, which is not bad, right? It's just a note, but it's straight, right? But if you add like a little vibrato here, it makes it nicer. Or if I play this note, But now what about if I do this? So you see here, I'm just adding a little hammer on. So some of those are techniques, right? Some of those are techniques to add a little bit more of the soul, or like the bending, right? That adds the soul to it, and that adds that uniqueness, that thing that you're gonna do a little bit more your way, you know, and like it's, you know, nobody can quite do it exactly the way you're doing it, and that's what brings the uniqueness, you know, uniqueness. It's kind of like the voice. Everybody has a different voice, you know, and it's really hard to replicate somebody else's voice, although some people are great at it, right? But it's still like, it's still not gonna be the same. Everybody has a unique voice, and like the vibrato, the techniques, the way you do them, this is where it adds your unique voice on the guitar. So those are really the things that you might want to focus on, instead of focusing on like, hey, are scales helping me or making me worse? They're not making you worse, you know. It makes you better, probably, if you play the scales. But you have to be careful not to just do the scales and not to focus so much on the scales that you forget about everything else that's important, right? Because I'd rather you not really know the scales quite as well, but know the rest. Know how to give it some soul. Know how to make different rhythms. Because then, like, the notes are even less relevant, right? So you really have to make sure that you don't disregard everything else. If you want to dive deeper into this, and if you really want to take your guitar playing to the next level, watch this next video right here. It's just going to show you exactly how to do this and how to make your guitar playing much better.